All right, this week we're taking health food and mixing it with decadence. So we got the health food is the Birchermüesli, and then we've added dark chocolate for some decadence. But actually, chocolate's pretty healthy for you too, the dark chocolate. So these are health cookies. Yeah, these are Birchermüesli cookies with chocolate chunks. Now, a little story about Birchermüesli. You know it probably as muesli a lot, and usually when you go to buy the store, it's muesli. But a long time ago, the Bircher Clinic in Switzerland, Dr. Benner, he was the one who invented Birchermüesli. And we eat this a lot. When I lived in Switzerland, we had it for breakfast, we had it for lunch, we had it for snacks with whipped cream and stuff. Now, story, my mother actually stayed at the Bircher Clinic in the 1950s. Most people went there because they needed to lose weight. My mother went there because she needed to gain weight. My mother was so skinny that she was basically unhealthy skinny. And she went there to gain weight so she could eat as much as she wanted to every day. I'm sure the heavier people there did not like her. But one of the things was to eat this healthy Birchermüesli a lot. And of course for her it was with, hey, it's lashings of whipped cream, yeah, that's fine. Now, I put this in the cookies here, and you can get muesli. I get muesli here in Osaka. I get muesli at an import store. And I know when I lived in Canada, you could easily get muesli. So just look for muesli. I'm using, I'll show you the one that I use in the kitchen itself, which is a fruit and nut one because I like it. There's a little bit of nuttiness, a little fruit in there. And then, of course, I've added the chunks of chocolate in there. And that makes for a fantastic cookie. Let's have a bite of that. Oh, got a chewiness now. And it's good for you, I think. Well, except for the sugar that's in there. Anyways, you're gonna love these. Let's go in the kitchen and make some right now. Now, to make our Birchermüesli cookies, a lot of the ingredients are quite the same to making the chocolate chip oatmeal cookies that you can find also here on the channel. The thing that's different is, of course, that I'm using muesli. All right, let's have a look at the ingredients. Well, across the front, I'm using half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of vanilla essence. 1 egg. Here, I've got 4 ounces or 110 grams of dark chocolate broken up into small pieces. I've got a half a cup of butter. Now butter it's cool in here, so it's been sitting in this room. You don't want it too warm. You want cool butter. It should be a little hard to cream. 1 cup of sugar, and I'm using my favorite, which is the unrefined cane sugar, kind of like a light brown, light blonde sugar. 1 cup of flour, and then 1.5 cups of muesli. Now, I get from my local import store this one here, which is Country Farm, and it's fruit and nut. Now there are different ones, but I like the fruit and nut because there are some raisins in here. There are oatmeal. It was one of the biggest things in here is the oatmeal rolled oats. Also rolled wheat, so same as oatmeal, but crushed wheat flakes. There's coconut chips in here. There is, let's see, oh yeah, hazelnuts, almonds, cashew nuts, things like that. Oh, cornflakes. I could do without the cornflakes, but there's not that many of them there, so oh well, not too bad. All right. So any kind of a muesli mix will work well in these cookies, whatever you can get your hands on at your local store. Now, the first thing I want to do is cream the butter. All right, I'm going to take my big bowl. Let's move some of these out of the way. Toss the butter in here. And this is the hardest part, actually. This is where you need a little bit of arm power in there because you're going to cream this butter. So you're pushing down with a wooden spoon and basically creaming it until it's a little smooth. Gets a little easier as you go along. All right, now that I've creamed that, I'm gonna put the sugar in. Now you can, a lot of times I'll dump the sugar all at once, but it is best to just put about half in there. It's a little easier that way. And what you're doing is you're creaming the sugar into the butter. And as I said before, this is an important step because basically what it does is this sugar, as you're creaming it into this colder butter, is tearing little holes in there. You don't really see them, but it makes a big difference to the texture of your cookies. Okay, once all that sugar has been incorporated into the butter, toss the rest in there and repeat. All right, that's it. All the sugar has been creamed into the butter. Now what I want to do is I want to add the egg. Let's grab back that bowl that my sugar was in. Crack the egg into here. And then to that I'm going to add the vanilla, salt. You can eat salter now or you can put it in later. I just like to add it now. Okay. Mix that in a bit. Doesn't have to be too perfect because we're about to hit it with the electric mixer. And that's going to take care of things. So what I do now is just add that to my butter and sugar. We get all that in there. And then I'm going to hit it with the electric mixer. Now what I want to do is I want to mix this until it gets nice and smooth. So it's about a minute or two usually. Let's do it. All right, so you can see that this has gotten quite nice and smooth. So now what I want to do is I just want to get everything off the beaters. Let's just grab a spoon and make sure we get all that off the beaters here. We need that liquid. Okay, those aside for later. And there we go. Don't need this guy anymore. What we're going to do now, take a separate bowl. I'm going to put the flour and the cinnamon and the baking powder in here. And then just going to make sure that that baking powder gets mixed around throughout here, and same with the cinnamon. So give it a little bit of a mix. That's good. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to work this flour mixture into the butter, eggs, etc. mixture. And to do that, I use a lot of a cutting motion going across like this. Just kind of cut it in there, get it mixed in. Keep mixing, keep mixing. It's going to take a little while. But you want to get all that flour into the liquid ingredients. So just keep mixing and cutting, mixing and cutting. You're always going to get a little bit of flour down at the very bottom, so make sure you turn it over and get that up and into the wet ingredients. And there we go. That's all mixed together. So now I'm going to get the muesli into there. And basically exactly the same thing. Cutting and mixing until that muesli gets into all the cookie batter. You want it spread out evenly throughout. That gives you a perfect cookie. All right, that's looking pretty even. So now, finally, the chocolate. All right, one thing about the chocolate, you can make these cookies without. So if you want to just make Birchermüesli cookies without chocolate, yeah, Sure, I like it with the chocolate, but either way is good. Another good way is, oh, careful. Another good way is you can get some kind of dried fruit like cranberries. Dried cranberries are really nice in these. Dried apple pieces, anything like that. Apricots, you name it. You could, any kind, actually even some of the tropical fruits are good. Like for example, not pineapple rings as is, but dried pineapple, if you can get that, or dried mango. And mix that in. That makes for a pretty good cookie. So there's a lot of different variations you can make with these. All right, again here I'm just whoa, talking and mixing. Unable to do both at once. So what I'm doing here now is just, again, cutting and mixing until those chocolate pieces are all mixed throughout. I don't use as much chocolate as I do in my chocolate and oatmeal, the oatmeal chocolate chunk cookies. So it's a little easier to incorporate actually, but still, you want to make sure that it's throughout. All right, now it's looking pretty good. So I want to get that little spoon again. What I like to do now is grab spoonfuls and get them onto the cookie sheet. But there's a little trick that makes this even easier, and that is to have a bowl of hot water on hand to keep your hands clean. Otherwise, after a while, it just builds up in your hands. So we're going to roll these a little bit to make perfect cookies. All right, so I'm going to grab a bowl of hot water. All right, so now I've got a bowl of hot water and a dish towel. So what I can do is I can just kind of wet my hands a little bit, not too wet. Perfect. And then what I do is when I grab a good spoonful like that, see, good chunk of cookie dough. Basically, you want just a bit around about an inch or so, so about 2.5 centimeters, and just plop those onto. Notice again, I've got baking paper, cookie paper in my baking sheet. It just makes it so much easier. And just gotta keep making these and getting them on there. We can put about a dozen on this sheet. Leave a little space. You're gonna leave about again an inch or 2.5 centimeters in between each cookie, because we're gonna flatten these down a little bit and also allow for any spread. They don't spread much really, but just allow a little bit of room just to be safe. So let's see, there we go. All right, so I've got a dozen there. What I want to do now is take a fork and flatten these down a bit. Not much. I flattened them down to a little over 1/2 inch, so about 12, 13 millimeters. Kind of like that. It makes for a good, solid cookie. Nice to use a fork, because a fork doesn't have as much surface area, won't stick to the cookies. Try doing this with a spatula or something and you end up sticking. This is always my favorite way to do it. All right, there we go. These guys are ready to go in the oven. They're going to go in the oven over there at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius for 11 to 12 minutes. You want it so they just starting to brown a little bit on the edge, but not really brown, like a little golden. That's about it. You don't really want to cook these too much. So 11 to 12 minutes in the oven. I'll see you here when they come out. All right, those have been 12 minutes in the oven, and it's just absolutely perfect. You just see just a little. You can see the dryness, and you see the little. Sometimes you see just little tiny pores in there, but this is done. This is perfect. Just a little tiny bit right here. There's a little gold around the edges. That's what you want. You don't want to get any browner than that. That's absolutely perfect. Now, they're way too soft right now to go to a cooling rack. So let them sit on here for a couple of minutes, and then you'll be able to transfer them to a cooling rack. You try now, they're just going to fall apart on you. They're really soft until they start to cool down, and then they get to be just nice and chewy cookies. All right, If you enjoyed this recipe and you want to make some Birchermüesli with chocolate chunk cookies or anything else, well, stick around and check out the other recipes here on the Kuma's Kitchen YouTube channel. We've got a whole bunch of like over 3 years worth of recipes, all original Kevin Riley Kuma's Kitchen recipes. Make sure you subscribe too, because that's when you're going to find out the new ones that come out every Monday. And hey, if you're not yet a patron of Kuma's Kitchen, well, consider becoming one. As little as $3 a month, you can support the creation of all these different recipes and sharing them here with you on the YouTube. And also you get all the cool stuff that the patrons get. But now, go make these cookies and make cooking fun again with Kuma's Kitchen.